Hello everyone, I hope your evening is going fantastic and I hope your day went well. We got a little project here, a little maintenance actually to do here with the X4. I'm right around 1,600 miles on the guy and my brake pads are completely shot. In fact, when I was installing these carnivore tires, I realized I pretty much had zero brake pad left at all on any of the brakes. So we're going to go ahead and change these out today, a little how-to video for you guys. Changing brake pads isn't rocket science, but I know there's people out there that prefer to watch something before they do it to help make sure they don't do anything wrong and to give them the confidence to tackle it themselves. So that's what we're going to do today. My brake pads of choice, I went with the Niche Industries brake pads. I got these off eBay. They are around 34 bucks, and I know what you're thinking right now. Cheap brake pads, they're not going to last long, and I do realize that. However, at just under 40 bucks, the price of these guys are pretty appealing, especially compared to OEM brake pads and stuff. So I figured, let's go ahead, we'll get the cheapos, we'll put them on, and we're going to see exactly how much life we get out of them. Because if you're someone that just does light trail riding and isn't really on the gas brake and ripping as hard as I do all the time, then you're probably going to get more life out of them than what I do. So we'll see how long these last for me, and then you guys will be able to judge how long they're going to last for you compared on how your riding is compared to mine. These are their organic brake pads, and I will note out that the parking brake pad did actually come in like a name brand packet. The rest of these are just kind of these blank packets, so whether this is maybe by a third-hand company and they just stick one of these in there to make you think, oh yes, I am getting the actual name brand, we don't know. But they look to be pretty much the same, so we'll see how these do. So the first thing we got to do here, obviously, is jack up the X4 and pull the tire off. Now, depending on tires and rims you're running, these are going to be different. But that's the first step. Let's get this up. Let's get this tire pulled. Whoa! All right, once you got your wheel off, here is your front brake caliper. There's going to be two 14mm bolts we need to remove to pull our caliper off. The one's right here on the top, and the other one is, oh, can I get you guys in here to see? Right here on the bottom. One, two, alright, I'm going to need a bigger persuader for that guy. Little impacts are nice, but sometimes they just don't have enough oomph. Alright, now we can rank it off. There are washers on these nuts, so don't lose them. Now once that's free, all we got to do is pull this up around. And realize we should have replaced our brake pads, probably about 200-300 miles ago. Alright, once your front brake caliper is here where you can get at it, you can just let it rest here kind of on your wheel hub. These brake pads are actually held in place with two bolts right here. These are 5mm Allen. So we have to pop these loose, slide them out, and then that will release the brake pads. If you guys have been in a lot of mud, you got a lot of corrosion in here, it wouldn't hurt to spray these down with a little PB blast or something before you try to wrench them out of there. Ours looks pretty good, so let's see if they'll come out. All right, I'm going to try this by hand just because I get a little nervous with that one came easy. I get a little nervous that I'm going to strip these allowance. That one wasn't bad. Oh, I got the wrong end. But since this one came loose nice, I'm going to go ahead and use the impact for that. Next one! You can see these are mighty long pins. See, we got a bit of corrosion on here. They are greased. Brake pins. So we're going to go ahead. We'll clean these up a little bit, re-grease them before we put them back in. Now with those out, we should be able just to take our brake pad and pop it right out. So you can see very, very, very little pad left on that guy. And I'm afraid this guy, yeah, we are kind of into the metal one there. Oh, shame on me. That's bad. Like I said, I probably should have changed these about 300 miles ago. But thumbs up for Yamaha for using good rotors, because there's no sign of rotor damage, thankfully. So now I'm going to take some time here. We're going to clean this up and add a little fresh grease here into our sliders. We want to make sure those are greased well so that they don't stick. As you can see here, I got plenty of play in mine. Mine are, looks like they're to be in good shape. So next thing we need to do is we got to push these pistons back down before we can put our new brake pads on. So before you go throwing your old brake pad in the garbage, we're going to use that to push that down. So leave that in place. I got to go get a clamp. Now they do make fancy tools for compressing these pistons. I've always just used C-clamps, and they've always worked well for me. This is a dual piston brake caliper though. Again, kudos to Yamaha for giving us beefy brake pads, especially on a nice heavy machine like this X4. But since this is a dual piston caliper, we want to kind of push these down at the same time. So I got 2 clamps. See if we can weasel them in there. Find something good. And we're just going to slowly work using the old brake pad as kind of a solid base. We're just going to slowly push the calipers clear back in the whole way. You can see here they're going nice and easy. Alright, now that we got this pushed back in and our old brake caliper away, we're going to take and clean up all this stuff here. Get her good and clean before we put the new pads on. Oh, alright, now that we got these all cleaned up, they're pretty much is only one way these will go. Again, you want these little holes for your retaining pins to go up. So this guy is going to go in, clear up. And again, there are little metal pieces up in here that kind of help to keep tension on that. And obviously, this guy here, you have this guy that goes on the pin. So you want to slide that on first. Slide that up into place. And then just reinsert your retaining pins. Work them in the holes. You may have to wiggle a bit till you find the right spot. Actually, let's leave this one out. If we leave this one out so we can see when we're through the first one. Yeah, I gotta push up a little bit. There's that one. Let's slide her back down out. This one's probably gonna be the same. A little push up on the pad to get it to line up. Oh, beautiful. Stick this guy back in. I have to do the same thing, push up on her. And that one's in. That one's in. Let's turn these back down. And of course, then it's pretty much just reinstalling everything in reverse. Slip your caliper over your rotor. Line up your mounting bolts, which I don't think I can do one-handed. Ooh, 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 ooh. Can I? Can I? Oh, I can. Tighten those up, torque these up. We'll put our wheel on and rinse and repeat for the other front. All right, front is done. The passenger side was pretty much just as short as the driver's side. No biggie. One little pro tip for you guys here that I ran into on this side. It was a lot harder since we had already compressed the pistons on the driver's side caliper to get the ones on the passenger side to turn to push back in. So if that's the case, then all you really have to do is come over here, pop off the cap to your brake fluid reservoir, and that'll allow that pressure as you squeeze to kind of escape out through. And that should help to compress your caliper pistons back in. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and spin this guy around because as you can see, I've lost my light back here. And that's gonna be kind of hard to see and for you guys to see. So I'll go ahead and spin this guy around, get the back in here, and we'll tackle the rear. All right, we got the machine turned around, the rear end up, and as you can see, I already got the tire off. These brake calipers, pretty much the exact same process as the front. Once the wheel's off, you got your brake caliper here. They're towards the back, so the great thing is they're easy to get to on the rear. You got your one mounting nut as I block your light. Sorry, guys. You got one nut here on the top. The other one's right here on the bottom, easy to get to. And the only difference between this and the front is the front was a 14mm bolt for your caliper mounting bolts. The rear are 12. And also, it's a little bit harder to get in here because of the clearance you have on the rear A-arms. So you're probably going to have to do this by hand. I just used an open wrench and get in there and break them free. Let's go ahead and pull the caliper off and see what kind of shape the rear brakes are in. Probably just as bad, if not worse, than the front. Ooh, she's moving forward. Ah, it wasn't too bad. Not too bad. Let's see how this bottom one is. Oh, not too bad at all. Somebody got grease all over. The reason I got grease over, because another little tip for you guys. While you have the wheel off and working on brake calipers, it's a good idea to go ahead and hit your grease zerks in here. If you don't know, you do have 2 grease zerks here to grease on the rear of your X4, and I'm taking it's the same for the X2. And it can be hard to get the grease in when this is on the ground. So anytime you have this jacked up, good time to put the old grease gun to her, hit her with a couple pumps, and make sure she's greased up and good. Because when she's up in the air and the arms are down, it takes a little pressure off. Alright, moment of truth. Woo, yeah. She bad. She really bad. Oh, wow. Wait till I get these off, guys. You're going to see. Wow. Alright, guys. So, to my shame, once again, we really had the rears wore down. So yeah, I definitely needed to change them about 300 miles ago. Both sides of these are wore down. Absolutely no pad left whatsoever. The funny thing was they never squeaked or sounded like they were going bad to just a couple weeks ago. So I don't know, but at least we got them before there's any damage done. Look at the mud that gets packed in here. Shoo-wee. I'm not even what I would call a heavy mudder guy with the X4. Now, with Little Mighty Mouse, I hit mud all the time, but the X4, again, is mostly my quote-unquote sport machine that I rip around in and haul the family in, so she doesn't see an awful lot of mud. In fact, I think the biggest mud holes that I've hit in this guy are all ones you guys have seen in past ride videos. But I guess this is an area where even going through mud puddles and stuff, it doesn't have to be deep. It flings up and gets caked in there. You guys can see here, you don't actually need a brake pad for these if you're careful and do one side a little bit and then the other side a little bit. Otherwise, if you push one the whole way down, you will have an awful hard time trying to get the other side down on these dual piston calipers because of the pressure that builds up. So take each one a little bit at a time. If you're not going to use the old brake pad, and do it like this. And be very careful not to push through the bottom of your piston cup there. You don't want to damage it. And again, I do have the cap off of my brake fluid reservoir to allow the pressure to kind of escape as you do this. Just makes it easier to compress those. That's your little spring clip that's in there. I don't think I showed you that on the front, but the front has almost the exact same thing. Front calipers are pretty much identical to the rear, only they're just a little bit bigger. As you can see, so it's pretty nice. Yamaha gives you dual piston calipers, both front and rear. A lot of vehicles will have dual on the front and just single on the rear. But Yamaha gives you dual piston brake calipers, front and rear. Of course, these X4s, they're no light little machines either. They got some heft to them. And of course, installing the new brake pads is pretty much a, whoa! Just don't forget your little clip, like I almost did. But installing your brake pads in the rear are identical to what you did in the front. We're going to slide our pad up in there in place. Do just a touch of grease here and grease up these slider pins a little bit. And reinstall our caliper over the rotor. Oh, and by the way, the rear caliper mounting bolts do not have a washer around them. So if you go to reinstall these, don't see a washer, don't panic. There's none on the rear for whatever reason. I don't try to figure out the minds of the engineers that decide what bolt needs washers and what bolts don't. I just put it back together the way I take it apart. And just like that, we are done. Now you will want to make sure when you're all done changing brake pads, before you go on your first ride, to take and pump the brake pedal several times to build your pressure back up. Squeeze them piston calipers back in so when you're ready to stop, they're right there ready to grab the rotor. So don't forget to do that. But other than that, that's really all there is to it. It takes probably 45 minutes to an hour just working kind of a leisurely pace like this. Not a big deal to do, and something you can definitely tackle at home and not have to take to a dealer and have that high markup the dealers always put for stuff. So, that's it. Now, one more thing to mention, this kit that I got did come with the brake pads again for the parking brake. My parking brake is nowhere near needing replaced yet, so I doubt yours will be either when you're ready to replace your other brakes. So, put it someplace where you'll forget where it is come time to change it, and you order another one only to find the one you had already had the whole time laying somewhere you forgot it was at. Anyway, I hope you found this how-to video very helpful when it comes time to change your brake pads on your X4. Thank you for watching, supporting Appalachian Mountain Riders. And until next time, keep on riding and stopping with better brake pads.